So the title of my lesson again is A Make It Happen Leader. And before I continue, I've also attached an invite. And that is our upcoming Women's Day on the 8th of March, which will be on a Saturday. And of course, thank you, Shiny, who's made this beautiful, beautiful invite. But for the people who don't really know, the Women's Day is for women only. So as much as I look forward to the event, I can't be there. So please, take the invite. We're going to print out the invite in actual physical form next week. So please invite literally every woman you know. A bartender, sister, mother, I don't really know. Any woman that is breathing is invited. And yeah, more details to follow. And we're going to be having an Eventbrite as well. So if you guys want to, of course, get the tickets ASAP, that'll help us as well. But it'll be crazy because I believe it'll be over afternoon tea. And one of our dear friends from Taiwan will be coming over to speak as well about, issues about women, faith, and these different things. Again, more details to follow. But going straight back into the sermon, right? Point number 1, Abraham never doubted his calling. Hebrews 11, verse 8 to 10. By faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. By faith, he made his home in the promised land like a stranger in a foreign country. He lived in tents, as did Isaac and Jacob, who were heirs with him of the same promise. For he was looking forward to the city with foundations, whose architect and builder is God. Abraham believed that he was called by God. The bigger question is, do you? He was not the first to be called by God to go to the promised land. His dad, Terah, was also called to go to Canaan. And yet, if you look back into the story, he only made it halfway. Genesis 11, verse 31. Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot, son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, the wife of his son Abram, and together they set out from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. So Terah most probably had that same promise, perhaps, but only made it halfway. Wow. Even just like that, are you settling halfway? Are you making compromises to your Christian walk? Even though you're almost there. You just don't know it. And for many of the Christians who come from a non-believing background, to believe in God and to get the rewards of being a Christian is easy. I believe in God, I get great friends, now I have greater faith, now I have greater hope for the future, and that's it. We forget the sacrifices behind them. Because persecutions come, difficulties come. Actually sticking to the promise you had with God is something else. And that's why I want to lift up, not even, Hank. I'm sorry, that's my bad habit. Apologize for that. Our great brother Hank, he got baptized close to 20-something, and he's going into his age, and he's looking for a wife, and he comes from a Christian background, but he got converted in Sydney, where everybody now believes in God. A lot of people believe in God. He moves to China. And believing in God is now a bigger difficulty because not many people believe in it. And for him to go, I'm Christian, I have to go to church. I have to find a job that allows me to go to church and helps me practice my faith. And of course, with that, I want a job that doesn't give me overtime so I can go and be with the church, go and please God and do other things apart from work. To go to China and get a job that doesn't require me to do overtime. And you go, oh my gosh, that's difficult. And of course, as many men, they also have to dream to have a spouse as a Christian is to also have a Christian wife. And it's easy for him to go, my family is now pressuring me to get a job, period. To get married, period. And for him to go, I'm not compromising. I'm not giving up. Even though it takes me a long time, even though it takes me a lot more heartbreak, a lot more heartache, a lot of patience. This is what I must do. And today it's really awesome that he has a job that helps him, that allows him to have, a Sunday off, to be able to go to midweek service, to be with the Christians. and to actually have a job that pays well and doesn't require you to have overtime in China. But at the same time, to be able to have a wife that is Christian, that also believes in God. To have a wife that doesn't nag you. It's like, why are you going to church? Like, that's our day off. Join me. To be able to have a spouse that wants the best for you. That the last resort issue is never divorce. To have a wife that goes, I'm not going to lie to you. You're not going to lie to me. That's a Christian wife. And so often Christians make a compromise. And they don't suffer now. They suffer later. God made the Bible with rules and regulations, okay. But these are rules and regulations to help you. So to compromise in it is not in his design. What are you doing to compromise in your faith today? Abraham did not know where he was going. He goes, I'm going to Canaan. Where is Canaan? Oh, beats me. I don't have maps. I don't have Google Maps. It's probably just a desert. Probably nowhere, nothing there. Why am I going to follow God when I have literally my house here? Why do I got to go to a random place to build my life? He only needed to know his calling from God, and he simply obeyed. Let's be real. Okay. If I told you to go somewhere, and that's it, just coordinates, and not tell you where you're going, will you go? No. Probably not. You probably go, well, what's in it for me? Is there free food there? Okay, maybe. Is there a job there? Okay, maybe. But you go, just go. Yeah. And you go, you crazy? Are you paying for my gas bill? Are you paying for what? What's the catch? And too often, that's how we respond to God. The Bible calls you, go here, go here. And we go where? What do you want from me now? Is it good for me? If yes, then I'll follow. If God calls you to, if God called you to go to Africa with zero context, go now. Will you do it? If God calls you, hey, you're going to be working at McDonald's. No context there. Just work there. If you are called to follow God with little savings, will you still want to follow? Many times God will call you to a place, but not tell you the reward. Because he wants you to experience that yourself. I don't know if you've been to Ocean Park in Hong Kong, or even Disneyland, or literally any amusement park. They do this really clever trick where they put the waiting time at the outside. Okay, 30 minutes waiting time before you actually take the ride. And the line is like 3 people. 30 minutes? Like, that's not a problem. You line up, you pass the 3 people, and inside the bigger room with like 100 more people. Like, that's where the 30 minutes goes. Right. God's using the same thing. He goes, here's the cost. It's not that easy at first, and now you see everything. But when you're actually in the line, and you have the right people, it'll go quickly. And when you're actually on the ride and experience it yourself, then you will understand why the wait time is long. And I want to lift up our dear friend Chindalo. If you guys know, he's an African. He went to Sydney to work, and I believe I studied and graduate there. And he's an African living the Australian dream. You go, I get to stay here. I get to drive a car in a first world country. I get paid really high in comparison to literally most places. I get freedom. I get to live in a great house, probably own property, these different things. And, and with that, he became a Christian. And the calling of literally anybody is to go back to your own hometown, to go back and preach there. Because he's Zambian. If you guys don't know the country, we just recently had a church there. And, one of the leaders is like, hey, how do you feel about going there for a little bit? Maybe you should go and talk to the people, stay there for a while. And he goes, me? Look at my job. Maybe next time. And for the longest time, he's been avoiding that leader. He's like, he's over there. And you're like, okay, I'll need to go bathroom. Okay, bye. But eventually, after being Christian for a while, he goes, you know what? I can't escape this. I need to. And for the longest time, he now went to Zambia, and then he went back after his missionary trip to go back to Sydney. And then he preached, and he's a different person. He's been a Christian for a long time, and when he's in a new, small little church, he knows all the songs. He knows how to lead them. He knows how to preach. He knows how to evangelize. He knows the basics. But in a big church where everybody knows the basics, okay, sure, you can make an impact. But in a church where nobody knows the basics, he's made an even greater impact. He preached that midweek to the Sydney church, and he goes, if I didn't go, I don't think I would have been or stayed as a disciple and stayed as a Christian. And I'm very grateful for those little months. Okay, sure, I don't have my nice car. Sure, I don't have accessible water. Sure, I don't have these things. But I impacted more people than I could ever desire. And now he is in there, working full-time as a missionary. And you never know. And that's where God calls you. Will you still want to follow? So I attached a little photo. That's him there. Abraham had no problem living as an outsider. Let's be honest. Half of us in this room are outsiders, including me. I came here going, oh, Cantonese, isn't that the same with Chinese? I'm like, what's wrong with that? Where everyone's speaking a foreign language, and I'm like, oh yeah, cool, this one. Yeah, that's normal. And for some of us who didn't, decide to learn Chinese, that's still our problem. So good luck there. Not pointing at anyone. But Abraham did not have a problem. He did not have an issue being a stranger. He was okay not being accepted or understood. He just knew that, God understood me, and that was enough. His eyes were fixed on the one prize that really mattered. That was one of God's promises. Many say they believe that they are called by God. They just say. And when trouble comes, they go, God who? God called me? No way. But when life is easy and they just got baptized as a Christian, they go, yeah, God picked me. I'm so awesome. God is using me. Yeah. Would you say the same thing when you're fired? Would you say the same thing when your friend fell away and stopped being a Christian? Would you say the same thing when you're in debt, broke, and just living from paycheck to paycheck? Mark 4:16-17. Others, like seeds sown on rocky places, hear the word and at once receive it with joy. But since they have no root, they last only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. Just like that, are you that soil? Will your resolve diminish when nothing works out? Doubters never make things happen because they are ruled by feelings and not God's promises. You believe that you are destined for greatness, or you're just tools of Satan. Do you still believe in this passage? 1 Peter 2:9-10. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Do you still believe that God has chosen you? If you guys don't know, I'm based in HKU now. And basically I come up to random people, invite them to study the Bible and just have fun, and help them know God. And when you guys evangelize and talk to these random strangers and random friends, they ask, why'd you pick me? And they're like, what is it? Is it my hair? Is it because I look Chinese? Is it because of my English? It's like, no, you're just next to me. I'm sorry if you're looking for a bigger, grander cause. You were just next to me. I'm sorry. But one thing I've really been thinking about is, why did they ask that question? Because they believe that there is a greater reason for why random things happen. And instead of asking me why you picked me, you just ask God. Why do you think God allowed me to meet some random stranger in HKU? A foreigner asking someone to study the Bible. I think it's quite obvious what God is trying to do. But so many times we forget that. Even you being here is a sign from God. Like, for me, let's be honest, I'm from the Philippines. I don't speak Chinese. I just graduated recently, and all of a sudden I started believing in God and I'm part of this church. To believe that the very first church, the very first campus that they've planted is my campus. And they reached out to me here and not when I was in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And the whole Philippines believes in God. And I become Christian here, in China. Like, what are the odds? And so my question for you is, how did you get here? Did you meet some random person who also doesn't even belong here? Who probably doesn't even study on the campus that you're studying in? Maybe, you had a class that was late for 5 minutes, and that's why you had to go to the bathroom, and you got met in that bathroom. Maybe, for example, a kitten fell out of the tree, and you met another disciple. I don't know. But God uses these small chances to bring you. And He decided not next week, not next year, now, to seek God. God demands you believe in your calling today. Unless you believe that you are called by God, you will not really take notice of the path God has for you. Because you'll make your own path. And in it, a lot of disappointments. So, and do you believe that God has a greater path for you? Even looking at this church, it took 6, 7 disciples and Christians to plant this church. And 2 of them are not technically Chinese. We have a Mongolian, to be able to come here and basically kicked out right after. An American Chinese to come here, Chi. And technically Australian, Themis. Australian Chinese to come all the way out of their lives to come here to Hong Kong to plant this church. And now it's massively multiplied. Then to go to Taiwan. Then to meet all of you guys. That was the faith of 6, 7 people. I even think of Livia. To be able to even think that she has to go through her own challenges, her studies, her past, to become a Christian, then to invite her mom, and then now her mom now invites Lewis to start studying the Bible. That was the faith of 2, 3 people, but the faith of God. To be able to have Denzel to study the Bible for 2 to 3 years, plus a heart attack, plus case competition, plus his degree, to start believing God. Unless you see God's hand behind your suffering and your pain, everything is coincidence. But for us Christians, we just go, it's just God. And point number 2, Abraham put his life on the line for his people. Genesis 14, 11 to 16. The 4 kings seized all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their food. Then they went away. They also carried off Abram's nephew, Lot, and his possessions, since he was living in Sodom. A man who had escaped came and reported this to Abram the Hebrew. Now Abram was living near the great trees of Mamre, the Amorite, a brother of Eshcol, and Abner, all of whom were allied with Abram. When Abram heard that his relative had been taken captive, he called out the 318 trained men, born in his household, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. During the night, Abram divided his men to attack them, and he routed them, pursuing them as far as Hobah, north of Damascus. He recovered all the goods and brought back his relative Lot and his possessions, together with the women and the other people. Let's be clear. Lot, his nephew, was an idiot. And Abram still saved him. Lot was worldly. He had a family, and he goes, you know what? Let's go to this town where rape is normal. Let's go there. Yeah, I think I'll have a great life there. I'm not sure if that's the most logical, He chose the easy path, and instead of allying himself with God and Abraham, he chose to separate. He was not able to lead his wife and family in the right path. Yet, why did Abraham go all of his way to fight 4 kings and trained men with probably chariots, with probable horses, to risk his own life and risk his family to save this one idiot? Because he was family. Not because of his worthiness, not because of his decision. He was just related. And this was the right thing to do. Even for you, how hard do you fight for people?
Come on.
If they get into trouble, do you just go, serves him right? Do we realize that, do you rescue, their finances? Are you actively part of it? And that's why I want to lift up not you, that's my problem. I want to lift up Joe. If you guys don't know the problem not in the US, but the thing in the US are student loans, student debt. That's a bad thing. But one of our friends, Maddie, studied in the US, is now doing an exchange in Australia, was in a lot of student debt. And Joe, who's like 60, 70 years old, goes, I know you're having this issue. Let me deal with it. Let me take care of it. But to be able to be so concerned to help someone get out of debt in that way, to form a schedule, a budget, it's like, here's how you eradicate that debt. Let me give you a hand. Do you rescue people's love life or the lack of? Thank you, Joe, if you're watching. If you guys don't know, I did not have a love life at all a year ago today. And I was like, I'll just chill. I didn't even know what I was going to do the next year or so. I was like, I'm just here in PolyU, just doing my thing, trying to serve God. Marriage or dating, whatever, it's not my plan, whatever happens. And Joe goes, hey, what about this sister? I'm like, I don't know. I haven't been thinking about my life. Why am I so concerned? Why are you so concerned about me? And I'm very grateful for that. Because he genuinely thought about it. It's like, what if this sister? What if this is? I'm very sure that it wasn't that random coincidence. He's been praying for me this whole time. And even Jesse, when I was in Sydney and me and Emma were already dating, Jesse, this great Australian guy, he comes up to me and he goes, bro, I know your money. I know you don't have that much. I know you want to date this girl. Do you need extra money to take her out on a good day? I was like, it really moved me because why did this guy have anything to do with me or my dating life? And he goes, let me take care of it. Do you need extra flowers? Do you need this? I want to help you make it great. Do you rescue people from their bad health? Do you rescue their careers? And do you rescue them from their bad decisions? And if people make bad decisions, we just want to be there and go, you should have followed me. I told you so. But will you actually sit there, not say I told you so, and go, let's deal with it. We're now past that bridge. Let me help you get out of it. Could you have fought harder to rescue people who have fallen away, who've stopped being a Christian? Are you fighting hard to rescue those that are weak, even today? And even in Sydney, I was living with a couple of brothers, and some of them are pretty weak at that time. And I'm very grateful they're quite stronger now. But there was this brother who lost his job, lost his main source of income, and he's a student, so he doesn't already have that much income. He lost his degree because he didn't have and can't pay tuition. He lost his dreams, his desires to do anything. He just goes, I can't have my degree, I can't do anything. What am I going to do? To the point that he threw tantrums in the house. Why did you touch my food? Yeah, most of the time. That's how brothers are usually. To be deeply emotional, to not give his contribution, to not want to give back to God, and in deep bitterness. It was like, this guy will stop being a Christian in a month's time. What am I going to do about it? I can't tell him what to do because he doesn't want to do it. What do I do? And I think in that moment, God really made it clear. It's like, you are the one stopping this man from falling away. What are you going to do about it? Wow. One of our mentoring times, he goes, you don't have to mentor me. You're leaving soon. You can just move on, switch mentors, and just forget about me. That was like, that's not happening. Even if I fail, I don't care. I'm going to do whatever I can. And he was really moved by that. And all of a sudden, one of the brothers has an opening in his job. And he goes, hey, just take it. Even though it was 2 hours away, he goes, whatever, job's a job. Let's go and earn money. And now he's in a much better position, and he's grateful for that. But in the same way, do you have that impact on your friends and on your family? And I want to lift up a couple of disciples even in our Manila church. Because one thing they told me is that one of the leaders, they go, I always have a car in my garage, and it's always full of fuel. Because I don't know when's another day where someone's going to call me, wants to fall away, and I need to drive there.
Wow.
He lives at the center of town, and he goes, I need to be able to drive 2 hours away just to rescue this person.
Come on.
You know, even in your love life, does it need rescuing? You know, people's love life is a huge issue. And I learned this the hard way. Yeah, and you go, okay, dating, that's not a big issue. But for some of us, we go, we've been single for quite a while. And the next step we have to take is to date, to be able to take care of someone else. That's the next step of your growth. And me and the brothers and some of the sisters have most probably been watching a lot of Filipino movies recently. I heard that a couple of the household even watched the same one twice. I've watched the same movie 6 times. And that could be us. I'm not sure if you've watched the Filipino movie. It's cheesy and it's cringy. I know I'm from that country, but it's bad. Long story short, they have very high standards of what romance is. Very high. And that could be us. Sad to say, but we could have very high standards of that. You go, I'm not dating this person. I'm not remotely interested unless A, B, C, D, E. No. Whoa. Amen. Yes. In God's time. But, you know, I want to encourage you guys. A funny story me and Emma would always remember is when she just became a disciple and she was having like these banquet dates. And there's a brother that took her on one of these banquet dates. And I was like, oh, hey, how was your banquet? And all these things. And then that brother goes, oh, yeah, no, not interested. She hasn't had her quiet time for a whole month. That's gross. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Okay, great. Only to realize later on I'm dating that same sister. But, you know, in time, too many times we think, hey, who is perfect for me? Yet are we asking, who does God think is perfect for me? And many times, let's be honest, God can see all imperfections. So who's imperfect enough for you? That's the bigger question you might be asking. Because I'm imperfect, that's clear. Well, why are you expecting perfection from someone when you yourself aren't perfect? You know, are you rescuing people's careers? Are your mentoring times with people, are they counting? Because let's be honest, when someone doesn't have a job, they're in that constant cycle of unemployment, no money, can't live, can't pay rent, now is in debt. Another day passes, they're still unemployed, they're still in debt, they can't pay rent. It's a constant cycle of debt. Are you the one to help them make money? You know, you can turn unemployment to employment in seconds. And I'm grateful for, Alfred really sharing his life. But I remember this time in Sydney, we were helping one of this guy out to get a job. And this guy doesn't have a degree. He doesn't have a university degree. He just got out of high school. And he's from a third world country. Yeah. To then move to Sydney, Australia and get a job is quite hard. His English is good, so no questions there. But the job market at that time was pretty hard. And Joe sat me down and goes, bro, if you're not going to take this guy's employment seriously, I will. Wow. And he goes, you need to make every effort. You need to get him a job next week. It's like, get a job next week? That's crazy impossible. And I was like, you know what? Whatever counts. So we printed out his resume by the 50s, by the hundreds, went to every single coffee shop, go, apply me, employ me, please. We go to this grocery store nearby, and there is that guy's country fried chicken shop, roast chicken shop, and he gets a job there in the next 2 weeks. Wow. He brings home food for the household for free. But unless you have that conviction of going, you're going to get a job, and I will make you run for it. That's the heart we might need. And point number 3, just to close things off. Abraham figured out how to achieve the seemingly impossible. Hebrews 11, verse 17 to 19. By faith, Abraham, when God tested him, offered Isaac as a sacrifice. He who had embraced the promises was about to sacrifice his one and only son, even though God had said to him, "It is through Isaac and your offspring will be reckoned." Abraham reasoned that God could even raise the dead, and so, in a manner of speaking, he did not receive Isaac back from death. You know, Abraham was tested by God, as we all are. And God said, hey, it is through Isaac that you will have a nation. Yeah. And yet, God called Abraham to go, well, that Isaac, that promise, yeah, go sacrifice him. Yet Abraham had to change how he thought. Yeah. How will God make this happen? God could raise people from the dead. What isn't possible? Yeah. You know, at every stage of your life, God will give you more difficult tests to pass. Yes. You know, just like a driving test, you will not pass by the number of failed attempts you have. You will pass when you pass the last one. And the same thing, if you're trying to pass the test, you must take complete ownership. Yeah. Abraham's test was to kill his son while holding on to the belief that God's word will come true. In the same sense, what kind of challenges is God testing you through? Come on. Abraham had to think for himself, okay, how am I going to have a kid when the only kid I'm going to have is about to die? And just like how we need to do, we simply need to obey. Yeah. And you need to see how God would go beyond what you can see. And too often we can be so religious and we can fix to one way that we forget that God asked us to be creative. The thing is, the Bible is some parts of it are rules and regulations, but most of it is principle. Yeah. Jesus didn't go, you must do A, B, C, evangelize for 30 minutes and 30 seconds. He didn't go there. He didn't go, you must be baptized for 1 minute, 45 seconds, and 30 milliseconds. He didn't say that. But he goes, here's the principle. Love God, love people. How are you going to do that? Up to you guys. You can do however you want. You need to find your flavor of pleasing God. Because in reality, life should be exhilarating. And it shouldn't be one cookie cutter method for Christians. That's never how it works. You know, even in how you evangelize and share your faith. I do lift up Denzel. If you've evangelized and shared your faith with Denzel, he does crazy ways. Like, he goes, like in HKU, there's a Chinese lantern making of sorts. And then there's random Chinese words, and he goes around talking to random people. Hey, what does this mean? What does this mean? And one of it says, learn how to cook fried wall. I was like, what does that mean? But he just asks people, like, hey, what does this mean? He goes, hey, do you like Subway? All these different things, because that suits him. He likes talking to people. He likes making friendships. And for you, it's like, maybe it's meetup groups. Maybe it's your classroom. Maybe it's your debate classes. Maybe it's all these things. But there are people everywhere. Yeah. In praying and reading, there's so many ways to read the Bible and pray. There's commentary. There's comics. I don't know. You can be creative in how you read the Bible. How you pray. Have you rapped while praying to God? Have you danced while worshiping God? These are all, of course, you know, with the righteous words and all these things. You know, you gotta watch yourself, make sure. But God is not just subscribed in a single methodology, in a sense. They're right principles, and that's true. You know, you need to make things happen now. Every moment of every day, you're either growing in your faith or you're losing faith. Yeah. I'm not sure if you've been a kid, but, you know, you go into an escalator and you try to run up the escalator that's going down. And every time you stop, you go down. So unless every second you're going up, you're going down. So in every sense, in your life, every day is either increasing your faith, you're climbing one more step, or you're falling back down. And it's time to turn your faith around. Stop being the victim. And you go back, okay, how do I make it happen faith? Go to God. Romans 10 verse 17. Consequently, faith comes from hearing the message, and the message is heard through the word of Christ. Go to the Bible. See how God has given you so many promises already. Yesterday we went on and have a prayer walk from Ocean Park to 2 different beaches. And it was really memorable because those are the beaches where half of you got baptized in.
Yeah.
And for us, it's to go, there are more people that are going to be baptized in these beaches. And we're just anticipating it. If you were to remember every single prayer you prayed yesterday, next year, how much more faith will you be?
Come on.
If yesterday God went down and go, every prayer you're going to pray today is going to be answered.
Ooh.
Let's be honest, we're not going to eat. We're not gonna take a break. We're going to keep going. And for my mom, and for my dad, and for this nation, and for that nation. That's the faith we must have. You need to have faith to have money. Let's be honest, if you don't have money, you're going to die. That's just the reality of things. And in Ecclesiastes 10 verse 19, money is the answer to everything. You can do so much with God. But to be able to go and do things in the world, you need money. So with Chinese New Year, is your red pocket money running out? It's been 18 days. Have you touched that money yet? Or is it gone already? Have you already put in a bank account? Is it working for itself? Do you have a way? Do you have a budget? Do you want to have savings into the year? Or are you just winging it? Oh yeah, I'll just get that Snickers bar from 7-Eleven. It's like, yeah, no problem. No harm done. And by the end of the year, you're like, oh, I'm waiting for the next paycheck. And let's be honest, Luke 10 verse 2. He told them, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field. This year is going to be hard work. And hard work is consistent. If you want to have personal fruit, you need to have hard work to meet people. You need to have the hard work to have faith, to pray for them. To raising special contribution, money that we want to raise for fundraising, it's going to be burdensome, but there are ways to make it fun. Look at what hard work you can achieve. Services, Women's Day that's coming up. Amen. It's a lot of work. But imagine the inspiration that will come afterwards. The challenge is before us. We need fruit. We need baptisms. We need to be able to convert and raise leaders. If we don't do that, the church will be gone in a couple years' time. And of course, to raise our weekly contribution. My dream is to be able to have, at least this church to be self-sustaining. And we're a couple thousands away already. So if everyone can increase their contribution just by a bit, we would be self-sustaining. The title of my lesson today is Abraham, a make it happen leader. Point number 1, Abraham never doubted his calling. Do you believe you are called? Do you believe that you are made for something greater? As much as for us Chinese, your calling is to be rich, to be a doctor, to be an engineer. Yet we forget that there is a greater calling from God. Point number 2, Abraham put his life on the line for his people. Abraham fought for people. Abraham fought for people that don't deserve it. Lot. And yet, how much more should we fight for our brothers and sisters? And point number 3, Abraham figured out how to achieve the seemingly impossible. And I want to leave you with this quote. Some people want it to happen. Some wish it could happen. But others make it happen. With that, to God be glory. Amen.